This is VSiN PrimeTime. Live from the Circa Sportsbook in downtown Las Vegas on VSiN, the sports betting network.
Final hour of VSiN PrimeTime. We are about to get started between the Angels and the Guardians. We'll keep our eye on that. And our game of the night, moments from tipping off Warriors and Nuggets. Warriors are going to go off as about a 3-point favorite here with a total of 237.5. The big news, of course, Steph Curry, Jimmy Butler in the lineup. Jamal Murray, not. Big one for seeding. And for the second straight night, Warriors find themselves the center. Our VSiN Primetime Game of the Night. With that, we head out to the Progressive Guest Line. We have unveiled all of our contest selections, save for two entrants, because both of them will join us in this hour. One of them is here now. David Dineen, the reigning and defending champion for at least 3 more days. David, it is good to talk to you. So I wanted to start, before we get to your picks, I wanted to pick your basketball mind. We've been talking a lot about the shooting background for where they're going to be playing at the Alamo Dome this weekend. And as a man who I watched make 11 straight threes on a Twitter video, I knew you would have good insight here. But when we talk about the shooting backdrop, what are we looking at? What affects shooters? What are we even talking about when we say that this isn't a great place to shoot the ball?
I will give you guys a brief story. My Cal Poly slow team, we played at Boston College in 1994. And, I'm not going to say the place was sold out, but because it wasn't. But when you talk about shooting background, guys like us and old timers will say like, oh, make your free throws, make your free throws. I got fouled. I went to that free throw line. And the only thing I said to myself is don't airball it. So because, everybody can make anyone can make 10 free throws in a row or shots. But when you got 5,000 people behind you and people screaming and hoping you miss, it's completely different. So, these shooting backgrounds, I think, Matt, last year, every game went under. All 3 of them went under, I want to say.
Mm-hmm. That's true.
Yeah.
David?
Yeah.
So, again, David Dineen from Reno, former Cal Poly college hoops player, defending champ here in the Circa College Hoops Challenge with us. You are 23, 22-2, 26 points. And, Dineen, you're playing the under, Florida-Auburn, under 160.5. I almost use this as a play, too. This is a bet for me. So, aside from the shooting background, can you talk about why you played Florida-Auburn under 160.5?
At some point, guys, don't you think Todd Golden gets tight a little bit? I mean, he's, he was Bruce Pearl's assistant back in 2014 to 2016. Everybody knows that. Mm-hmm. They're good friends. They're going to know their stuff. They're going to know their sets. But say this game's got 4 minutes to go and it's tied up and the pace has been furious. At some point, doesn't Golden just, let's just pull these reins back a little bit and get an even better shot? I'm taking the under, guys, because they know each other. This is a very important game on a neutral court. Golden's dodged some bullets off the court this year. I mean, I'm taking the under because I don't think you play a furious pace for all 40 minutes here. At some point, maybe it's not the last 5 minutes, but there's going to be a span where, okay, let's slow it up, Walter Clayton, and pound this thing inside.
That's your best bet, Florida-Auburn under. Let's talk about the side, because that's your other play, Auburn plus 2.5. And how concerned are you about, if at all, about the John I. Broome injury, and how do you handicap the Gators and Tigers when you're playing the side?
Well, one thing I've learned this year, and more so from you, Matt, than anyone, is do injuries even matter, right? I mean, I've been following college basketball since 1995. I'm not a big bettor, but, I mean, I've lost a ton of games this year where guys have been out, it hasn't been in the number, and it didn't matter. So it's just one game. Even if Broome plays 28 minutes, I'm sure that's fine, even if he's 70%. But this game could come down to it's tied up or, Florida's down 1, and they go 1-4 flat with 15 seconds to go, and Walter Clayton pulls up and wins the game by 1. Like, we see it all the time. Mm-hmm. The ball is going to be in his hands. They're tied, down 1. They'll go 1-4 for him, and he'll find himself a shot. Like, he's not going to not find himself a shot. He's great at separation going left. And then that's why I took the 2.5, Matt.
David Dineen up in Reno, lived in Vegas for many years. You can follow him at David_Dineen775. And do you have any advice for JVT? He's got a lot riding on Auburn futures. He's going to be a roller coaster of emotions for him on Saturday. Where do you plan to watch these games up in Reno? And do you have advice for JVT on how he should watch the games?
Well, JVT, I'm going to put this out on the table here, buddy. I mean, you're making a strong comeback here. If you win this thing and steal it at the midnight hour, do I get a text message from you that says, Dave, come down to Barry's, we'll celebrate?
Of course. Of course.
I mean, are you returning the favor from last year?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh,
I
so
mean,
you're going with Barry's. You're not going to go stadium swim if you win.
Yeah, I'm going to go. I will go. If I win, I'll go Berries. That was
You'll
the
go
thought.
Barry's. And you'll invite Dineen.
Yeah, of course.
All right. Well, you got a family to feed, too.
I do have a family. Well, I can't
can't
bring two of the three.
The kids can't go to the Bears.
Exactly.
Hey, this thing, guys, I always say, people go like, well, what happened this year? What happened to you? College basketball, that's what happened. I mean, if I can finish above 500 in this thing, that's about where I am as a handicapper. So I guess I was lucky Paul Stone and wasn't in this thing last year. But it's a great contest, and this is kind of a tangent because you can't cheat. The lines are the same for everybody. Bettors are notorious for saying, oh, I bought off the game, I got a better number. I love how this thing is set up. You can't make excuses. You can't blame anybody except yourself. So, JVT, where are you going to watch the games?
Well, I have to be on the air for the first half of Auburn and Florida, so I'm not too thrilled about that. So for sure, I will be at Bar Canada over at the D. And then depending on what is happening in that game depends on where my location will be once I get off the air at 4 p.m. Pacific time.
Like I said, if it's going well
I'm
in
not
the first
moving.
half, you can't move. You got to stay at Bar Canada at the D. David, where's the best spot to watch the games up in Reno?
I would say Grand Sierra, Matt, is pretty good. They got that sports book there that's pretty nice. Atlantis is pretty good there. I got kicked out of that place, though, for betting into numbers that they didn't like. Peppermill, so I'm not really wanted there. Peppermill's pretty good, too. So there's some nice spots up here in northern Nevada.
Dineen is telling the truth. He did get booted out from the Atlanta Sportsbook because he's betting some off numbers. And bookmaker, did you get a warning or did you just get booted?
I got booted. I think you know the guy. I asked him, hey, can I come back in a year? And he said, nope. We've had you on our radar for a while, and you're out of here.
Okay.
Come on now. David Dineen with us, former college basketball player, Circuit College Hoops Challenge, defending champion from last year, going through the Final Four. Matt, we have not gone Houston and Duke yet, so let's go there. Obviously, David, your picks do not involve that game, but let's start with this side. Many popular projection systems have this at a much tighter spread, yet Duke is sitting here laying 5. What do you make of this matchup with John Shire versus Kelvin Sampson?
Guys, usually and you guys have talked about it today, Houston usually just punks teams, right? They're just so physical. They got like 4 or 5 guys that look like, football players, for Pete's sake. But they're not punking Sion James. I mean, the point guard who brings it up for Duke, I'm convinced that he's bigger than even he's listed. He could be about 6'5 and a half, 228, 230. Like, he's just a specimen of a guy who's loves physicality. Like, I'm sure they'll put Milos Uzan on him, and he's a really good on-ball defender, but, you can only turn him so much. Duke's going to get into their sets. They're going to get the ball to flag at the free throw line extended, whether or not he makes their shots. I mean, I would take under in this as well, but like you were saying, Matt, this could be a rock fight. I mean, just if you're Houston, you got to muck it up and try to steal the thing 65-64.
Did you consider playing the under in this game as well?
I did, yeah. I did. I had some luck with some unders about 2, with some games here for the contest a couple of weeks ago, but they're going to have to muck it up to win it. You can't win this game 80-78, I don't think.
Right. That's what I said. If Houston wins, it's going to be in the 60s, mid-60s, something like that. David Dineen with us, previewing the Final Four, talking Circa College Hoops Challenge. Dineen, I've won more bets this week on the college basketball crown than I did on the first 2 days of the NCAA tournament. I know you like to follow the smaller tournaments. Hell of a game last night between Chattanooga and UC Irvine in the NIT championship, with Chattanooga winning 85-84 in overtime. Have you been betting the smaller tournaments, and are you watching the college basketball crown here in Vegas?
I've been following it for sure. I mean, I feel so bad for that guy from Irvine, guys. Like, were you at that game, Matt? No. We had that.
No, we were doing the show. We were doing the show here last night. I watched the end of it after the show was over. I had Chattanooga plus 3.5, and man, that was a wild finish.
What happened? Did he just short-armed it? Huh? Why wouldn't he use the backboard there? Why didn't he just lay it up with the right hand off the backboard? Did he get buried underneath the basket? Is that what you saw?
No, he just timed. He short-armed it. Yeah.
Ah, God, the old alligator arms. But it's those games are so fun to watch. And did you enjoy the games at MGM Grand?
I did. I thought it was great. Yeah. I mean, even when you only have 300 to 500 people in there, it's a great basketball venue. It was a pretty good atmosphere, and I thought the teams put on a pretty entertaining show as well. You got Boise State 2-point favorite against Nebraska on Saturday. I like Boise in that game, and then Villanova a 3-point favorite in its game. I was going to say, did you watch them on TV? Did you? Because these smaller tournaments, I know you like to bet the smaller conferences. I wondered if you bet the smaller tournaments.
Yeah, I follow everything. I threw a little bit on it, but I've gotten beat up this college basketball season. I'm not one of these guys that come on here and say I've killed it. My record is what it is. I'm in 7th place in this contest. But if I can finish strong here, and be above 500, I always say that's about where I am. And last year was just maybe a fluke, but I always appreciate the invite.
I don't think it was a fluke. It was not a fluke. Last year was not a fluke. David Dineen, 23, 22, and 2. Last year when he won the contest, 25 and 15 against the spread. That's about the same record Paul Stone has right now.
David, we appreciate it. Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you, gentlemen.
This is VSiN PrimeTime on VSiN, the sports betting network.
Back here on VSiN PrimeTime, Matt Youmans, Jonathan Von Tobel. A lot going on in the world of baseball, Mats, including Angels currently trailing the Cleveland Guardians right now in the early going.
What? Well, it's only the first inning. Mike Trout at the plate. We got another question about the VSiN Invitational Golf Tournament, if it's going to happen.
Okay.
The coveted 5th major, as it's referred to by Chris Hartman out of St. Louis. As I said, I don't know, 50-50 if it's going to happen. If it does happen, it's going to be late June or sometime in August, and right now we don't have the answer to that. So in the meantime, we will settle for lesser events like the Masters next week.
Yes. Sometimes life, it's not all sunshine and puppy dogs. Sometimes the bad guys win. I may or may not be referring to my own personal situation at this point right now. We will see what happens. All right, quick observation about this game. Soriano, a lot of hard contact allowed. Ramirez hits a solo shot in the first. Has Mike Trout responded? He has not. That is at least going to go off the wall. It's going to be a double. It hit above the line. Hell yeah, that is a solo shot. Trout, second homer of the season. The broadcast is calling it a home run. He's running like it isn't. So we'll see where this lands.
A few years ago, the Angels moved that home run line, the yellow line, down halfway down that wall.
Under that scoreboard out in center right field. Yep.
And I think that hit just above the yellow line, and it ricocheted off the center fielder's face. Did you see that?
Yeah, I saw him go down.
Yeah.
So we'll see exactly what it is, but they are calling this a home run. So the second homer for Mike Trout this season. And the Angels tie this up at 1 apiece. I was about to mention that Soriano, the starting pitcher for the Angels, has given up a ton of hard contact, gave up the solo shot to Jose Ramirez, also a hard fly out to center that Mike Trout eventually caught. But right now, we have 2 runs scored in the first. So if you're a no-run first-inning type of person, well, that ended pretty quickly for you again with Ramirez. And this is going to be – I don't think there's any doubt about this. They're not even showing the ball. So.
Well, you got to show –
I know.
Show the ball ricocheting off the wall. They're showing Trout the replay 3 times of him.
All right, so
swinging.
That's going to be, that's well off. Oh, yeah, that sucks.
It did hit him in the face.
Yeah, so it does hit the scoreboard and then ricochets off that and hits center fielder in the face, right in the jaw.
Oh, man.
Yeah, that's tough.
He gave a good leap at it. Good effort.
Yeah, he did.
That was clearly a home run, though, so Angels
tied up on
Mike Trout's 99th career first-inning homer. Is that what
that said?
I think so.
That's an odd amount of.
I think Paul Howard just tweeted that out.
VSiN researcher Paul Howard with the that we're referencing, of course, Paul tweeting out a stat that nobody had yesterday. First time since 1960 a team loses 1-0, 3 straight games.
Cincinnati Reds are on the board.
Yes.
They just scored.
All right, 3-2, huh?
Yeah.
Look at that.
Reds were shut out 3-0 when we came back from that commercial break. Now 3-2. Reds on the board. First time in a few days.
Good for them. All right, so that is 3-2 top of the 8th inning with 2 outs. But watching this, I did because I just want to sweat out something stupid. I do have Angels in the under here. I parlayed them together. Paid out about plus 250. So let's see what we can get there. Our game of the night is underway out in San Francisco. That is the Golden State Warriors taking on the Denver Nuggets. Early lead for Golden State, 12-9, 8:41 left to go in the first. Also, an early screaming match at the official for Draymond Green. So you know it's a high-intensity game when Draymond's already going at the official.
We get that on TV?
Sure, what's that?
On maybe TV8?
Oh, you talk about our game of the night?
Yeah,
sure.
Warriors Nuggets.
Yeah, we can do that on 8 or maybe on 10, either one. But yeah, we can get that up there. We're watching as well. UConn all over UCLA in the early going, 32-20, make it 35-20.
I'll tell you what, it sure looks like both favorites are going to advance and cover in the semis of the women's Final Four tonight, doesn't it? 15-point lead for UConn early in this one.
Yes, and we'll see, because obviously the first game, the favorites struggled a little bit at the beginning, but ultimately pulled that thing out in South Carolina to cover that number. We'll see if UConn can do the same. Really quickly, because we are a couple of minutes away, just want to update some of these numbers, standings, and injury reports here. We do still have 2 games left tonight in the association. That would be the 2 L.A. teams playing host to their respective opponents. Los Angeles Clippers playing host to the Dallas Mavericks, and the Los Angeles Lakers taking on the New Orleans Pelicans over at, I don't even know what it's called anymore. Is it still Crypto? The Crypt, if you will, formerly known as Staples. But the Clippers will be taking on the Dallas Mavericks without one Anthony Davis. Thought is that Davis will be back potentially this weekend on Saturday, but he will not play tonight against the Los Angeles Clippers. So that's obviously a pretty big deal for Los Angeles, who's trying to get their way out of the play-in race. 11.5 or thereabout, with a total of 225.5 in favor of the Clippers, and the Lakers are about 15.5-point favorites, total of 222.5 at home against the Pelicans. Remember, second leg of a back-to-back for the Lake Show.
Yeah, Rockets rolling over the Thunder tonight. So, like you said, that game was much more important for the Rockets, and it just seemed like OKC was going to be on cruise control tonight.
Yeah, that was a spot of spots, if you will, at least from a motivational standpoint for the Rockets to put their best foot forward. The Thunder have nothing to play for. Rockets really don't have much to play for either. They seem pretty comfortable in that 2 seed, currently with a 3-game lead over the Denver Nuggets. But pride on the line for a team that's not being taken very seriously as a 2 seed in the Western Conference. Thought you'd probably get a pretty good effort, and that seemed to be the case as they mollywopped Oklahoma City. Should also note, we did get a playoff seed clinched tonight in the Eastern Conference. A year ago, the Detroit Pistons lost 28 straight games.
Oh, boy.
Tonight, they clinch a playoff berth inside of the top 6. So, again, a playoff berth, not play in, a playoff. They have clinched at least a top 6 seed. Detroit gets a big win over the Toronto Raptors, 117-105. And how about that? A year after losing 28 straight games, they are into the Eastern Conference playoffs as at the very least
turnaround.
The 5 seed.
It really is. Think about that team was depths of despair a year ago. You lose 28 in a row, laughing stock of pro sports. Then they come back and had a really good year. Talking about the Pistons. UConn up 39-22 on UCLA right now. One thing to mention on the Nuggets-Warriors game in terms of live betting, Nuggets lead 15-14, but the live total just hit as high as 247. It closed 237, and so the teams are off to a fast start here in San Francisco.
A rip-roaring start, if you will. Also, we should note that our top, with that loss too, the top 10 is set in the Eastern Conference. It's just the seeding that is yet to be determined. The Atlanta Hawks can still get their way in to the top 6, as Orlando can as well, I believe. But right now, nothing yet settled, but we're still looking at this thing in terms of the seeding and where it's going to be. But top 10 teams are all locked in for the Eastern Conference.
We got a question here from Matt from Fresno, and he says, JBT, who is going to win the Southeast Division if you had to pick one team today?
I mean, of course, I'm going to stick with my guns, which is the Atlanta Hawks. However, the Hawks need to start returning the favor. They are now down by 1 game. They have lost 2 straight, and the Magic have won 2 straight. Usually when a team that you are chasing and or leading wins 2 straight and you lose 2 straight, it's usually pretty bad.
Yeah.
Usually pretty bad.
I will say that division race has definitely lived up to the hype.
It definitely has.
Yeah.
Definitely has. I think a lot of people have said that. I think it's been a big part of the conversation, much like the Crown Tournament.
I think the Southeast Division race is going to be a hot topic on First Take on ESPN on Monday morning.
No, that's going to be I know you're hot on this John Morant topic.
No, I'm not. I couldn't care less.
You said it properly.
Huh?
A lot of people go with the could care less.
No, it's could not care less. That's what it is. The proper way to say it.
Saying could care less means you could care less. All right. Let's see if Logan O'Hoppy's got something here for the Halos. 2-2, 1 on, 2 outs. Hoppy had a grand slam the other day. Not swinging the ball particularly great. Making some contact here, though, and definitely keeping this at-bat alive. That is one of a few baseball games that is currently underway. You mentioned it, the Cincinnati Reds trying to snap this awful skid that was discovered by Paul Howard. 3-2, bottom of the 8th inning. One of 3 other games that is underway outside of this Angels game. Texas up 5-2, top of the 9th inning against Tampa Bay. And then Kansas City up 8-2, top of the 9th inning, trying to close that thing out. So we'll see if that is the case for both of those teams. What you got?
Not much. Just watching the Nuggets and Warriors go at it here. 17-14 Denver in early going. So is it a bad sign for the Warriors if they can't win this game on a night when Jamal Murray sits out?
It could be, but again, it's the second leg of a back-to-back after a high-intensity primetime game against the Lakers. So do you really hold it too much against them? Spot-wise, as we've talked about, it wasn't the best situation for Golden State. Not only the second leg of a back-to-back, but the third game in 4 nights, if I remember the schedule correctly.
And they did have a long road trip, too. You're correct.
Right, yeah,
so
third
the
and fourth.
first came back home after a long road trip. That's a Dave Malinsky special, right?
Sure.
That's not the ideal spot to bet a team, and the Warriors were betting the market. A number definitely moved on the injury information. Who's going to be starting tonight? Warriors closed 2.5 or 3-point favorites. Live line, they are still 1.5-point favorites with the Nuggets up 20, now 23-19.
Yeah, it was a 6-game trip, started on the East Coast, ended in L.A. for Golden State. So it was a tough one, but very big game too. So
not too often you have a 6-game trip, and then you have to play the first day back home.
Coming back from it,
after the last game of the trip. That's a really tough scheduling spot.
Yep. All right, Let's see. Chopper up the middle. Gavin Williams is going to get out of this. Gave up a lot of hard contact in that inning, but still stays out alive. So with that 1-1 tie as we head into the second inning out there in Southern California between the Angels and the Guardians. Folks, VSiN.com/subscribe is the spot you want to go to. Until August 1st, we're offering, look at this, you could get the summer special. Less than $60. Gets all the content through August 1st. Very much worth it. You get the betting splits, as you see there, from Circa and from DraftKings. Access to the articles and more. Get in on the summer special if you haven't already. Less than $60. Go to VSiN.com/subscribe and get started now.
This is VSiN PrimeTime on VSiN, the Sports Betting Network.
Back here on VSiN PrimeTime, last 30 minutes before we hand it off to the Sports Betting Podcast guys here on the Vegas Stats and Information Network. One last foray out into the Progressive guest line to welcome in the only contestant whose picks we have yet to unveil in the Circa College Hoops Challenge, Ken Thomson, who had himself a couple of rounds in the NCAA tournament to vault himself up to the standings after a rough start to the tournament. Ken, 26 points, 7 plays, 24, 21, and 2 after a rough start. How do you feel about the way you're closing out this tournament, my friend?
Well, you know what? I felt good going into the last 3 or whatever, and I just, didn't end up going 1 and 2 and lose some games that, you just look back and you're like, are you kidding me? But, it is what it is. I'm just happy because I was getting embarrassed early, and when you have that 0-5 early weekend, that you're just like, oh man, can I just get to 500? And then of course, when you get to 500 and you're over 500, then you're like, okay, can I focus in? Never thinking I'd catch Paul Stone, which I'm not, but I'm hoping you might, this way it's never over till it's over. I don't know what plays he's got or what plays you have. So if there's even a mathematical chance for you to get him, if there is, I'll be rooting for JBT only because I don't know Paul that well.
There is a mathematical chance. JBT 2 points behind. They have different plays in the Final Four games on Saturday. So, and JBT has Auburn in the tiebreaker, and Paul Stone has got Florida, correct?
Yep.
So there is a chance JBT could come back and win this. Ken Thomson, the host of SportsX Radio here in Las Vegas, a handicapper as well. And KT, you're tied with David Dineen, your good buddy who lives up in Reno. I know you heard his segment on the local radio before you came on with us. Did you hear Dineen being Mr. Humble, saying maybe it was a fluke that he won last year's Circa College Hoops Challenge? What'd you make of that whole act by Dineen of being so humble when we talked with him earlier this hour?
Yeah, and this is what I mean. This just blows me away. I know this guy forever. He's the same guy that you would see like Woody Harrelson, like warming up for White Men Can't Jump, right? And that is him. I mean, the guy's literally there warming up all goofy stuff. And then you guys have seen him, right? He's going to drop 10 out of 10. And I'm the only one, me and one other guy, that at 6 in the morning at a 24-hour fitness in Las Vegas off Tropicana watched Dineen make 43 out of 44 threes from the alternating two wings. At freaking 6:15 in the morning. Like, who does that? Freaking Dineen, man. He's unbelievable. But I said, this is a guy that if you're playing spades, you want him on your team. Because if not, the guy's got the ace-king, and he's bidding one trick. I mean, the guy's unbelievable.
25-15 against the spread last year when David Dineen won this contest. We upped it from 40 to 50 plays this year, and Paul Stone, very similar record, 28-18-1, headed into the final week. So David Dineen, it was not a fluke when he won this a year ago. He was sandbagging a little bit. He is still a game over 500, 23-22-2. KT, you're 24-21 after that poor start, so you've got a lot more confidence in how you've been handicapping here during the tournament. Your best bet is Florida-Auburn under 160.5. And KT, JVT and I had mentioned during the show that none of the 15 handicappers played either of the games tomorrow over the total. Florida-Auburn, very popular underplay. Why do you like it?
Oh, yeah. Again, the bigger venue. I mean, now the Alamo Dome's not as bad shooting-wise from what I hear from people as, say, NRG. I remember I was actually at that final with Butler in Connecticut. And, I mean, literally you could have gone to the bathroom and for 8 minutes and come back, and the score hadn't changed by a basket or so.
KT,
and,
that's one of the worst championship games I've ever seen, if not the worst. I think UConn won that, 53-41? Is that right?
Yeah.
I want to say there was maybe a three total points in like an 8-minute span. It was absolutely unreal. Like, you couldn't believe what you were watching. But it does, now that NRG, the way it was set up in the backdrop, it was a cavernous environment. And I'm a 3-point shooter, so I'll be the first one to admit that, something like that, especially with the glass backboard and you're looking through, and, it just depends. I mean, I've been at a smaller venue. When I used to call games for Long Beach State, I remember we played at the Anaheim Convention Center, and this was in 2000, and we had won the division, won the conference by 3 games. And so I'm like all ready to go to the NCAA tournament, but only one bid, Big West. So we're playing Boise State, who was still in the Big West at the time, and we had beaten them during the year by 28 and by 25. I mean, just buried these guys. So I'm getting ready to call the game, and we're the 1 seed, so it's high noon, and you could see like the sun like coming in there at the convention center and whatnot. But our guys were so overconfident, and it was just a weird venue, and it was not a good shooting backdrop, and there weren't a lot of fans there. Even though we were the 1 seed, our fans took for granted, we're going to dust the floor with Boise State. Not only did we lose, Matt, we lost by 25. And I'm like sitting behind the mic going, it was like one of those Southwest Airlines commercials. Want to get away for a while? I wanted to get the hell out of there, man. It was like, it was unbelievable. And I was just walked out of there and go, the season's over. And of course, we end up going to the NIT and playing Roxy Bernstein, my good buddy, was calling Cal games there at his alma mater, so ended up going up to Hospitality for an NIT game. But yeah, I mean, shooting perception is huge. And like I said, the Alamo Dome, from what I've heard from a couple people that have been there, it's not as bad or cavernous as, say, an NRG or some of the other football stadiums, but it still is. And I just looked at it and I said, you know what? I think this game's going to be close. And if it's close down the stretch, teams are going to value possession. And I know Bruce, I followed Bruce Pearl since 95 when I was calling games for UC Riverside. And ironically, in the National Championship Division II, who do we play? I was calling, was Bruce Pearl in Southern Indiana. And over there in Louisville. So I know his style. He's a big advocate as far as first 5 minutes of the second half. He feels that he can get off to a great start in the second half no matter what. If he's down 15, he wants to cut 5 points off that lead. If he's up 15, he wants to extend it to over 20. And so that's his MO. And I just have a feeling because they got beat up by Florida and they got beat up bad at home that they're going to be focused from the get-go. So I didn't like the 2.5 because I know Florida's good enough. And I know if Clayton can get off, Clayton Jr. or Elijah Martin or, any one of these guys get off, that Florida's good enough to cover the 2.5. but I figured it's going to be close enough. They're going to value possessions. So what I did as far as the two games myself is I ended up teasing Auburn up to 7.5. And then I teased them to both Duke as a pick'em and Houston plus 10. And all I have to do is cover the 7.5. If Auburn's not good enough to cover 7.5, then I'll lose my money.
Ken Thomson, Las Vegas radio host, Florida Auburn under 160.5, his best bet. JVT, did you enjoy that story that KT
I
told?
did. I did very much enjoy it.
You want to talk to him about the Houston Duke game?
Sure. I didn't know where you were going. All right, Houston, let's talk about it. Houston and Duke, Ken, and one of the popular sides, Houston catching the points, and you're on that side.
Yeah, you know what? Because they finally have 3 3-point shooters. Youmans was a great pickup from Oklahoma, but Cryer, we knew when he was at Baylor, we knew this guy could flat out shoot. Sharp is good enough. The thing that concerns me with Houston is Roberts' free throw shooting and Tugler. Both these guys are terrible from the line. Now, Roberts has had a couple games where he has been pretty good, but he's under 60%. Francis has to do his job. I like Houston only because I don't think Duke has seen anything like this defensively. And Kelvin Sampson, that's his MO. And look, Shire's done a great job. You would think he's a 10-year vet over there. You know, he's under Coach K playing there and then coaching, doing a great job. And he's got 3 guys that are key to me. Proctor's key. Flag, yes, player of the year. Gave it to him handily today over Broom. But Knippel's the guy. If I could just slow him down a little, I'm okay. I don't care if Flag gets 25. If I slow Knippel down and I keep this kid to where he's 4 of 12 and not getting, 15 or more, I think Houston wins the game outright.
Ken Thompson's Final Four, his tiebreaker picks were Auburn, Duke, Tennessee, and champion Florida. So the Gators were your pick. You're going to stick with the Gators?
Right now, I mean, it is what it is. I put it up there. I don't like the way they're playing. They're very fortunate to beat UConn.
Mm-hmm.
In fact, I'm surprised that Dan Hurley blew that game. And then the Texas Tech game. Yeah, they win by 5, so we don't look at it as closely. But we know damn well they were getting beat. So, I mean, and Texas Tech, they got what they deserved, I guess, from Arkansas fans rooting for them, saying, good, now you know how it feels, right, to blow a big lead like that. But I don't like the way Florida's playing. I do like Clayton Jr. I know the kid doesn't feel the pressure much, but I just have a feeling that if Pearl's ever going to win a title, this is going to be it. I would flip-flop my pick right now from Florida to Auburn.
What do you think, JVT? JVT's heavily invested in Auburn. He's also got a big futures ticket on Auburn. How you feeling right now? Confident or just nervous? I just
want to get to the game. I just want to get this thing started. There's a lot at stake here.
JVT, here's the thing. JVT, you got to feel better that Florida kicked Auburn's butt at Auburn because they have their attention. You've got Auburn's attention from the get-go, right? Had Auburn beaten Florida by 15 and you're going into this game, they're all confident, and sometimes they play loosey-goosey, especially Broom, and sometimes they think they're the better team. And against a team like Florida, you can find yourself down 10 points in a hurry if you're not hitting for 2-3 minutes. So I think it's good that Pearl will have them focused from the get-go. Can't be tight. Got to be able to spread the ball around and got to knock down your shots like anybody else. We know whoever shoots the 3 ball well, and that's why Baker Mazzara to me is the key. He knocks down a few from the outside. That's key. But go to the rack as well. Don't settle for the 3 early. Get into the game. Go to the rack. Get to the free throw line. Try to mount some fouls on Duke because that's what Duke does, and that's what the officials give Duke. And I told Matt this all the time. You'll see little fouls.
Ken Thomson, Circa College Hoops Challenge contestant with words of confidence for me.
This is VSiN PrimeTime on VSiN, the sports betting network.
Last couple of minutes here on VSiN PrimeTime before we head off into the weekend. So a couple of things that we wanted to put some bows on here. First off, take one last look. All of our contestant selections are in. The final look at the standings as we head into the Final Four weekend for the Circa College Hoops Challenge and a fun contest that I was very happy to be a part of. So looking forward to what this is going to bring this weekend. But Paul Stone, your favorite, going into the weekend by 2 points. Myself trailing 31.5 points for Paul, 29.5 for me. Tim Murray in contention for second with 28. and Will Hill at 27. Big difference, though, despite the same record, Matt. Tim Murray 5-3 in best bets. Will Hill just 3-5.
Can we throw up that best bet leaderboard?
Sure. If we get the best bets, throw them up.
Yep. Sponsored by Dom DeMarco's Pizzeria and Bar on West Charleston. If you're headed out to the Red Rock Sportsbook, Dom DeMarco's not too far away. Wes Reynolds and I will be out there next Wednesday for the last Jim Feist handicapping show of the spring to preview the Masters. I know Wes is going to be working hard on that this weekend all the way through Tuesday. And big event next week. As soon as the Final Four wraps up, we start talking golf betting. Full blast. Dom DeMarco's College Hoops Challenge, Best Bets Leaderboard. Paul Stone at the top. He started, what, JBT? Did he start 6-0?
He did, I believe.
I think so. Now it's 6-1-1. You and Tim Murray and Ron Boyles all at 5-3. I am at 4-3-1 after I went 0-1-1 in the last round. Aaron Moore 4-4. The Professor tied with David Dineen at 4-4. So there you go. We got 7 of the 15 handicappers of 500 or better. Best bet records overall, not good. 52, 59, and 6. 7 games under. The overall record for this contest, 7 games over, headed into the final 3 plays.
All right. Good luck to Paul Stone, and we'll see what happens this coming weekend. Before we move off the Final Four, I wanted to throw these at you because we were just talking about this off the air. The look-ahead lines for your potential championship matchups. Over at DraftKings, Duke 4.5 over Florida. Duke a 5.5-point favorite over Auburn. Now, that wouldn't necessarily compute with a 2.5-point difference on a neutral between Florida and Auburn, but things will happen. Auburn will get upgraded, whatever it is, when you go into a championship game like that after a win as an underdog. Florida and Houston, a 1.5-point spread in favor of Florida. And Houston and Auburn, Houston a 1-point favorite over Auburn. Any of those stick out to you as potential championship matchups and lines?
I would think if Houston upsets Duke, that those numbers might get a little bit inflated. That Duke or Houston be a little bit bigger favorite, just slightly bigger favorite on Monday night
over Auburn.
Yeah.
So right now, as it stands, DraftKings would tell you Houston would be a 1.5-point underdog to Florida.
I'm not sure that would be the case,
and they would be a 1-point favorite over Auburn. The Auburn thing's an interesting dynamic because then you would have both dogs winning and moving on. And obviously, a dog pulling off an upset, no matter what the size, it's going to move toward a upgrade.
I mean, the fact remains Florida Gators have faded a little bit in the tournament, right?
Yeah.
Playing with fire, not playing their best basketball. Been lucky to survive a couple of scares. I mean, most teams got a scare on the way there. Duke did not, really. I think if Houston upsets Duke, which is, the top power-rated team left in the tournament, I don't think Houston's going to be an underdog to Florida on Monday night, and I think Houston probably be a 2-point favorite over Auburn. But again, depending on how the games play out on Saturday,
right,
is going to shape those lines.
Houston upsets Duke.
What's going to happen on Monday night?
Houston upsets Duke in a tight game where they win on the final possession. Right. Meanwhile, Auburn smokes Florida. That changes, I think, the dynamic of what you look at, right? So I think that's, to your point, these are look-ahead lines, but the situation does change a little bit with what happens the round prior. So
exactly.
Yep. We'll see. I just want this game to get here.
So what time do you do the show at the D on Saturday?
1 to 4. Game tips
1
off
to 4 Pacific.
And game tips off at 3:10.
Okay.
So Will Hill and I will be together. Last 3 segments we will be watching.
It's a good guy to be with while you're watching the first half of the game. Will Hill's a level-headed analyst. He is on Florida, though.
He is. We were texting about this earlier. When I found out, I may have sent a curse word or 2 at him. But we will see. And then, of course, to your point about Will being level-headed and a very good friend, after I may have called him an effer, he responded with sending me the text that he sent you about Johnny Broom.
Yeah, I know.
So we'll see. Broom status is, of course, not a question. He will play, but how healthy he will be. And everybody freaking out over him holding on to his waist strap for 10 seconds in a video that was posted today on social media.
Who said it there? Was it David Dineen or Ken Thomson said that, I think it might have been Dineen, if John A. Broom plays and he's 25, 30 minutes and he's 70%, it should be fine, right? Yeah.
At least fine in the sense that they're an Auburn team playing with a full deck of cards, essentially. And that's all you can ask for.
Could have some other guys step up, make shots, and I I like Ken Thomson, what he said about the angle, because I said the same thing earlier in the week. When you were a 10, 11-point home favorite against a conference rival and you got blown out the first time around, I know the final was 90-81, but if you watch that game, it was a blowout. Florida led by 21 in the second half. I do think you come back and play with more of an edge in the rematch, and I like that angle too, and I think it's going to play in Auburn's favor tomorrow.
Yep. All right, with that, Best Bets brought to you by G-Bank, the official bank of VSiN. I will echo the sentiments, too, going back to just remove everything that I've got on this Auburn side tomorrow. I think Auburn is the side, especially if we're going to hold. I'm going to hold out, see if you get 3, but I do think the market's gotten a little out of whack here, forgetting how good Auburn can be. And I do think that of the two of them, I've heard a couple of people this week espouse that they don't like the way that Auburn's playing, completely ignoring the way that Florida has played over the last couple of rounds of the NCAA tournament. One of these two teams has covered 3 straight heading into this game.
It's not Florida.
And it's not Florida. So despite some of these issues that Auburn may have had, I mean, I don't know about you, Matt. I think it's wildly impressive that a team is down 9 points. Looks like they're going to get eliminated by Michigan. They call a timeout and go on a 20-2 run out of that timeout to win and cover in a game in which they were laying a big number, 8.5.
Yep.
I think Auburn's been very consistent on defense. We've talked about this. The only thing that hasn't been consistent in their offense, namely their three-point shooting. Some would say they're due, but I don't think that's the case. I just think that this team's been playing consistent, very strong defense. I think they're going to be ready for a Florida team that smoked them. I think 2.5 is playable, but waiting out for 3, I think, is your best opportunity here.
It's going to be a great Saturday. You fired up?
I am looking forward to it.
Are you fired up for the college basketball crown? I want to talk about these G-Bank best bets that we wrap up the show with. Typically, you want to read the promo?
Did you know that they're up in the ante with up to $750 bonus for new G-Bank Visa Signature Card customers? New customers spend $1,000 on eligible purchases within 90 days, get a $250 bonus. Spend $50K in the first 30 days on gaming and sport app loads. You're going to receive another $500 together. $750 worth of bonuses. VSiN.com/GBank. Subject to credit approval. Terms and conditions apply. That's VSiN.com/GBank.
Been red hot in this college basketball crown tournament this week. This has been great to bet. These small tournaments, NIT too, have been great to bet. I like Boise. Bet this Boise -2 over Nebraska tomorrow. Watched all the games involving these teams this week, and I've power rate Boise about 3.5 points better. So I thought 2. I saw a line open 1.5. I think you're getting Boise at a kind of a bargain price here. More ways to beat you. Tyson Degenhart, Andrew Meadow, Alvaro Cardenas, the point guard, Javen Buchanan. Boise's a really good offensive team. When I watch Nebraska, and by the way, Boise's offense in this tournament, JVT, has been outstanding. 89 points in the first game against George Washington, 100 against Butler. Now, those are kind of weak defensive teams. Nebraska is not very good defensively either. And Nebraska has one player you've got to focus on, and if you shut him down, you're going to beat the Cornhuskers, and that's Bryce Williams. Guard, scores about 20 points a game. He's a smooth scorer. I really like him. But if you watch the Cornhuskers, if you can shut down Bryce Williams or at least contain him, you can beat Nebraska. I do like Boise -2 in that game tomorrow morning. And again, in the Final Four, I played both dogs and the under in the Florida-Auburn game.
Yep. And I agree with that, too. I forgot to mention that, too. I did play under 160 in Florida and Auburn, much like our contest. The popular consensus selection seemed to be that total. I had, let me see, I wrote it down, 7 handicappers in the Circa College Hoops Challenge of the 15 had under in Auburn and Florida.
And what was interesting there is no handicappers picked the over in either game, right?
Yep.
And 0 overs?
0 overs, correct. Yeah. Your top 2 consensus selections, according to VSiN.com, that cannot be accurate. So Florida, Auburn under, and Houston +5, the top 2 consensus selections.
Wrap up the show here. Nuggets 44, Warriors 41. Golden
Nuggets.
State 1.5 point favorite live. This live total, by the way, got as high as 257.5.
Yes.
It's now 243.5.
Also worth pointing out, the Nuggets were up by 12, 44 to 32. So this has been a very good 9-point run here for the Golden State Warriors to get right back into this thing with 8 minutes left to go in the second quarter. All right, folks, coming up next, it is the SGP guys. They'll take you on for the next 3 hours, heading into the morning, tomorrow morning. I think you're on with Tim as well?
That's right, 9:15 a.m. Pacific. What time are you on?
I'm going to be on at 8:15 p.m. Pacific time. Looking forward to that. Might be 8:30. I can't remember. Either way, check it out. Go to VSiN.com, watch it. Go to VSiN.com and check out our summer special as well. If you want to watch me agonize over it, I'll be on tomorrow, 1 p.m. live bet Saturday. We'll see you there.